A time comes in the life of every race when people are driven by echoes of the past to chart a course for an exalted future. Africa is at this threshold, as major actors in the Africa arena plot a renaissance towards common destiny. Let's pedal across the streams of yesterday, through the backstreets of Africa to the defining roles of policymakers, the political realities of the African nation, balance of power, and the strive to sustain national interest and identity. Join us on Network Africa on Channels Television. Network Africa, the rallying point for the emergence of a new Africa.
On Network Africa this week, did the Kenyan president contribute to the 2007 massacre in which 1,200 people were killed?
There is a body of evidence, some 9 separate witnesses, who would be prepared to come forward and say that they were told by people who approached them to organize violence that the person who was financing or ultimately coordinating that violence was Mr. Kenyatta.
Then, as the Ebola virus continues to spread, we take a closer look at how the dreadful disease is taking its toll on a remote village in Sierra Leone. Also on the program, Mali carries out health checks on porous borders to keep out Ebola. But as many visitors enter from Guinea every day, controls are a challenge. And in Nairobi, Kenya, one school is doing way more than feeding students' minds. As Lenny Ruvaga reports, it is also feeding their stomachs.
The children look forward to the meals because most of these children come from less privileged families. This is the only meal they can afford within a day. So we are not just feeding them physically, but we are also nourishing them intellectually.
Hello and welcome to Network Africa with me, Cynthia Are. We begin in Kenya, where the fate of the president hangs in the balance. He has appeared before the International Criminal Court to face charges of co-orchestrating the wave of violence in which 1,200 people were killed, and a government representative dismissed the prosecutor's allegations. The case is a major test for the 11-year-old court, which has had a string of collapsed cases and been accused of singling out Africans for prosecution.
Kenyans displaced by a wave of post-election violence in 2007 gathered around televisions on Wednesday, October 8, as the country's president appeared at the International Criminal Court, ICC, accused of crimes against humanity.
The International Criminal Court is now in session,
making him the first sitting leader to appear at the global tribunal.
As far as the court is concerned, Uhuru Kenyatta is an individual. The charges against him are against him in his individual capacity. The court is not trying the institution of the presidency of Kenya, and therefore what he did on Monday had to do with his domestic support base and their concerns about how it would look for a Kenyan president to appear at an international tribunal outside Kenya's jurisdiction.
The president is accused of orchestrating a wave of violence that swept Kenya after contested elections in 2007, being complicit in the murder of over 1,200 Kenyan citizens and the deportation, rape and persecution of many others.
There is a body of evidence, some 9 separate witnesses, who would be prepared to come forward and say that they were told by people who approached them to organize violence that the person who was financing or ultimately coordinating that violence was Mr. Kenyatta, and that they would be paid for their work and that they would be protected from the consequences of what they did. It is on the basis of that evidence that the prosecution has made the inquiries which are designed to reveal communications in terms of the telephone evidence we've asked for, and transfers of money or land or other benefits which we hope will be revealed by the other requests that we have made.
Kenyatta denies charges that he acted as an indirect co-perpetrator in crimes including murder, deportation or forcible transfer, rape, persecution and other inhumane acts. Kenyatta declines to address the court himself, allowing his attorney, Stephen K., to speak on his behalf.
All these witnesses that are referred to by the prosecutor, to whom phone calls were made, surely must have received phone calls from specific numbers. Give me those specific numbers, give me 72 hours, and I'll bring you the phone log.
Prosecutors accused Kenyan authorities of withholding evidence and obstructing the case, and asked for sanctions against Nairobi to force Kenya to comply with its obligations to cooperate with the court's investigations.
The lengthy explanation given by the government of Kenya say nothing about these documents being provided. I think it would be reasonable for us to conclude that the Kenyan government does not intend to provide us with either of those two sets of documents.
Kenyatta's lawyer called for an indefinite suspension of the trial due to insufficient evidence.
It is totally untrue to suggest that we are deadlocked because the government of the Republic of Kenya is failing to do something. We have come here today offering many alternatives, including requesting, like we have done before, for the prosecution to give us actionable information, material that can help us to access. It is not true to suggest that these registries are inoperative, that they are non-functional. They are functioning registries. They require information. Please give us that information. We will supply whatever you need within 72 hours.
Allies of the Kenyan president have also called for his trial to be postponed as it risks destabilizing a region threatened by resurgent militant Islam in Somalia.
And the bench will rise.
All rise.
The case is seen as a major test of the ICC, which has secured just 2 convictions in the 11 years since it was first established.